So, since I got a few of you guys online, I tell you a little bit about me while I sit here and wait. Used to be a journalist. I've written for Forbes, New York Times, Details, Playboy, GQ, all about luxury lifestyle for men, and had an opportunity to travel the world doing all that, which was really, really cool. And got excited about that, and it was just awesome to do all those things. And then from there, I started consulting with a lot of luxury brands. And then that was really interesting. I've worked with Bentley, Range Rover, Jaguar, Aston Martin, just a few of those. And as of late, my business partner and I, Melanie Waterberg, we decided to create a skincare line. And that has been something that we have really worked hard to do. It's been really intense, really incredible. We've learned a lot. We've grown a lot. We've had lots of fights. If anyone knows anything about building a business, there's challenges. And so that was super, super exciting. And through this whole situation, I decided to create a panel. Here he comes. Hello, my friend. Hello, my friend. How are you? Turn your mic on. How are you?
Hang on. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing outstanding. I was just telling the group, because we have some people that have joined. And how are you? Good to see you, my friend.
Same. I'm well. Like, no complaints on my end. Nothing at all. Just a little mishap with Google versus Zoom. That's all.
Okay. No worries. No worries. No worries. It's all good. I'm glad to see you. You look good.
Yeah. No, I'm feeling really well. No complaints. I mean, we're lucky. I keep, knock on wood. I just keep thanking my lucky stars.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So, I just want to say thank you so much for joining this. This is something that I've wanted to create for some time. Talking to my business partner, Melanie, and Chris, our designer, we wanted to create a community, and this is just super exciting to kind of start. I guess timing is everything, and so here we are now,
Yeah, well, there's a silver lining to everything, and if this isn't it, then I don't know what is.
So I just want to start off by saying, gang, everyone that's here, again, thank you very much for your patience. Thank you for being online with Matthew and I. Welcome to the first ever groupTHINK Zoom podcast panel, and thank you for everyone who joined. I met Matthew a few years ago at a CEW event, which is a cosmetic executive women's membership club, anything dealing with beauty. They kind of run the gamut, and he was speaking on a panel. And then he inspired me from his chat. So I went up to him and just said, hey, I'm a huge fan of what you've built. My business partner and I, we've studied your brand. And I just said, I just wanted to introduce myself. And then through that, he just really started to kind of we started to hang out and take a liking to each other. We both lived in the Chelsea neighborhood of Chelsea of New York. And we started to kind of have lunch and have dinners, and we started to talk, and he's been a true inspiration on what we have been able to create. So it's an honor to have you. You're somebody that we've looked up to, what you guys have built and what you guys have created, and it's so fucking dope.
Well, thanks for that. Honestly, it's such an opportunity for me to be around somebody with the level of enthusiasm that you bring to entrepreneurship. And, it's like a pleasure. I mean, I just really enjoy hearing everything that you have to say and learning what's new and out there in the marketplace, and just being a part of something that's exciting and different and timely.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So, well, since this is our first inaugural, remember we said we're going to do a toast. There it is, my brother. I love you, man. Toast. So everyone on camera, we're drinking, and it's only 11 a.m.
I will drink to that.
All right. So let's dive into this.
Yeah.
So Matthew, tell us a little bit about Malin+Goetz. Tell us a little about that.
All right. So business is now 16 and a half years old. We turned 16 in March, so a little over 16. It was started with the idea between myself and my partner to make skincare easy and uncomplicated. So regardless of your skin type, how a modern couple would actually shop for and use products together. We, in 16 years now, have a total of directly owned 15 freestanding stores and 2 websites. I know. between the US and the UK. We also have one store in Hong Kong and I guess 10 now in the United States between New York, San Francisco, and Los Angeles.
Wow.
The business is 5 categories: face, body, hair, fragrance, and candles. And this really simple idea of you just have to have 2 products every day that are essential to balance your skin. That's the deal.
That's the deal. I've used your products before. You know, they definitely work, and I'm a huge fan of them.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So
We also are big proponents of design. So my partner, Andrew Goetz, comes from the design world. I from the beauty world. And it was this idea at least 16 years ago that design really didn't live within beauty in the way that it does today. There are many startup companies that have really embraced design in different ways, different manners. We really try to take advantage of that and really bring, something very simple and uncomplicated from a design perspective, but bring design to beauty in a way that we had felt wasn't really happening 16 years ago. So we're very proud of our stores and of our packaging, the idea of our formulations, and how this all really played into the idea of simplicity and minimalism, and just having something beautiful on your shelf in a small New York City bathroom in a place like Chelsea, where you just don't have a lot of space, but yet you're around beautiful things all the time and you want them in your home.
Yeah, I think now with everyone being in their home, I remember telling my business partner, Melanie, several times, I think that home is going to be the next frontier. And I think now that everyone is stuck in their home, that is what's going to be the next frontier. Everyone wants, beautiful things. They want to feel good. They want to look good. And I think that will be another frontier. So it's good to hear that you guys are really on the cusp of that.
Yeah, everything evolves, and certainly design, like I said, has always been a part of who we are. Before this, I came from the fashion world, the beauty world. I partnered directly from the design world, industrial design. It came from a European company called Vitra. So all of these things have just been a part of our lives and our lifestyle. And so it's just been very organic, but certainly very timely now. And as we are getting feedback from our customers who are at home, self-quarantined, isolated, we're finding that all of the kinds of things that we offer and that we present, whether it be about design or products or well-being, that they're really, they're embraced. I mean, people are looking for those comforts that they can manage on their own at home.
No, I couldn't agree more. So, as we sit and really kind of like discuss this, what do you think it takes for someone to be a founder in the early stages?
Wow. I think you and I have discussed this, and you come from such an entirely different perspective than I do. So I'm an entrepreneur by accident. You're an entrepreneur by intent. And, it's such a different world how the two of us would approach a business. And I think they're both entirely relevant. I was at a place in my career where it was kind of a now or never moment. And my partner, who is a consummate entrepreneur, really wanted to be in business for himself. And so we sort of brought our two worlds of design and beauty together to really sort of see those goals or those ideas come to fruition. It is such an inordinate, enormous amount of hard work to start a business. And until you've done it, and I've only done it once, you don't realize that or understand the extent that you have to work, that you have to put in the hours. And I often say that when I'm being asked this question, like one of the hardest things for us was just doing it and not knowing. And of course, if you're in it and you're excited about it, which we were and you are, it doesn't feel like work. So you're willing to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 5 years straight with no vacation, no time off, sometimes no salary. But, those are some of the sacrifices, at least for me personally, that we had to make, which made it all worthwhile. I mean, we were in it, we were enjoying ourselves, we loved what we were doing. And for the most part, that's half the battle.
Yeah, and just to kind of segue, you speak so highly of your partner, tell me, what was that relationship like, working, building, living together, waking up together, pillow talk? Like, tell me about that. Like, what were the challenges? Because I've experienced that. I've experienced that myself, so I know all about it. So tell me what the challenges were.
All right. Well, it's much easier said than done. So I'm going to start there. We had a personal relationship for about 11 years before we started this business. 16 years into it now, 27, 28 years, a 28-year relationship together personally. So there's that. So we live together, we work together, and there are many challenges. You know, it's very interesting because one of the stock answers that I have for journalists when they ask me that question is, you know what it's like when you meet somebody and it's a honeymoon for like a year, and then maybe you move in together. And when you move in together, it's a honeymoon for like another month or two until you start fighting over the sock drawer. And you start to figure out like, am I going to compromise or am I going to like hold my fight? And if you're going to make your relationship work, you're going to compromise. And so there's been a lot of compromise over 28 years of our relationship, whether it's been personal or professional. So there's that. And there's a broad spectrum of conversation to be had about this, which we can talk about if you want. But I think
please enlighten us, please, sir.
I don't know. It gets a little rough at certain points, but you know, for the most part, we've managed the sock drawer. I guess that's the biggest takeaway, and compromise has been important. The other thing that I will say about the two of us is that we're just very opposite. So we've approached things from a very opposite perspective. We brought together two different worlds to live together, and two different skill sets. So he really comes from a purely, entirely creative perspective. He really embraced the idea of manufacturing, something that he'd been privy to in his last career, but not from a hands-on perspective. Whereas I really brought the sensibilities of things that I always knew. So product development, marketing, sales, all from a beauty angle. These were the things that I was good at. And, you know, for a long time, while we were always doing everything together, our paths didn't have to cross. So we could sit in the same room or even be in the same home and talk about the same things, but we were specifically doing different jobs. And I think having a partner, and you can probably talk about this as well, it's really helpful to have somebody to lay those things on, to have somebody to bounce ideas off of, and just to feel like there's somebody there for you. And honestly, when you go into partnership with your personal partner, there's no one that you can trust more. So, you know, we have all those wonderful things, and yeah, then you fight because you're around each other a lot, and you know, it sucks, but you get through it.
Yeah, I like that. I love your positive energy about it, brother. You're such a good fucking dude, man. You salute to you. Boom.
Thanks.
So as we dive deeper into this, you know, how was business prior to COVID-19?
So business prior to COVID-19 was the best that it's ever been. So we're 16 years into this business, and every year has been the best year that we've ever had. And the biggest challenge about the growth of a business's cycle is that every year you're anniversarying bigger numbers than you had before. And last year, for the most part, our company over 16 years has grown at a growth rate of about 30% to last year. There's been some years where it's been less, some years where it's been a little bit more. And this year we grew at 28% with the biggest anniversary number that we've ever had. So it was an extraordinarily successful year for us up until maybe 4 years ago, when we had taken a small minority investment and didn't really have money to expand not only our store fleet, but our staffing. We had no marketing. We had no marketers in the company other than myself and Andrew, and the staff that were there that weren't really marketing executives with any sort of career experience. We now have a team of over 8 marketers in the company, and it has really started to pay off where we've been able to hone a message that has been there for 16 years, but hasn't been clear and concise and consistent to the level that an experienced marketer can, who's dedicating, that's their sole job and they're dedicating all this time to it, has been able to do. And it's finally starting to pay off where we're really seeing the return from a customer who has found our brand, who has seen it in the marketplace, who remembers it and now is being forced to see it again or is thinking about it in a new way and say, oh yeah, I've seen that brand, and they're trying it now. So we're seeing both replenishment customers, loyal customers coming back to us after 16 years, but we're also seeing this whole influx of new customers that are responding to marketing that's just never been there in the past. So it has been hugely successful for us. And in fact, even after the virus really hit and we had to close our stores and our wholesale business went away, and we have a very robust travel amenity program business as well, which is, completely dissolved. Our website has continued to double in size, and all the websites for which we participate, our business is doubling in size. And after we've closed our 15 freestanding stores, our website, just our own website, is overcompensating for the sales that we've lost from our own stores.
Wow.
So there are some successes out there, and since we have, so it's nice to be able to talk about that and to be really excited about something. We also had the fortunate and unfortunate position of having a store in Hong Kong. And what's unfortunate about that, from a purely business perspective, not from a social or political perspective, of course, is that we encountered protests, government protests that were happening in Hong Kong before the virus. And then the virus hit on top of the protests. And so Hong Kong was hit really hard, but it's also come back. And we're starting to see people now going to restaurants, going shopping, and business is slowly coming back into place. And it's actually a good indicator and marker for what we can hope to see in the rest of the world, specifically in our own backyard where we have our own stores, which is also exciting. So there's some hope there and some, some optimism coming from that direction as well. And so when you take all this into account, I think that as a business, which is sort of a basic foundation for taking care of yourself, and we've tried to not be solicitous during this time, but really just presenting our brand the way that we always have, and trying to be thoughtful and empathetic to the varied situations that people are going through. There's a lot to look forward to when we come out of this, and it is exciting, and I think there's real opportunity for businesses that can somehow squeak by and get through this.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think that, I've been watching tons and tons of documentaries. I have a friend of mine, his name is Yossi, and he lives in Milan, and he and I have been exchanging information. I watched a documentary on the 1929 Great Depression and the Spanish flu, and you begin to realize that all these individuals from this past era, they went through some really difficult times and they came out on the back end. Yeah. And unbeknownst to me, there were more millionaires during the Great Depression than anything, because people were sitting at home thinking about ideas. And when we come out of this is what we can start doing, right? Because I think right now, this is the greatest moment in our time to be able to do some incredible things.
Well, and to your credit, to be an entrepreneur. So if you're really thinking about starting a business, or you're in the midst of starting a business, or like me, you have a business and you're thinking about what the next way forward is going to look like, you're right. There is all this downtime, and having the gift, and truly for me in particular, because I'm so fortunate and so lucky on so many other fronts, it is a gift to be able to strategize right now and to think, with a very lean staff that's sort of in place, what the future could look like for our business. And again, I think there's some real optimism there.
Yeah, I mean, so speaking of staffing, how many people work for you guys?
Well, how many people worked for us? So we furloughed about 70% of our 140 employees. Everyone, it's been really tough. We kept them on as long as we could. So for a few weeks into the virus, all of our retail and wholesale staff, not all, but most of it has been furloughed. Our office staff, to some degree, with reduced salaries, is still on board, including the two of us, obviously. And for the most part, we're muddling through. It's been pretty tough. We've been able to retain everyone's medical benefits, which we're really proud of. And so that's been one plus. And we're hopeful that in the next few weeks, we can bring everyone back to work.
Oh, amazing, bro. That's amazing. I can't wait for Melanie and I to be able to be in a position to start our business. This is great. You're such an inspiration. So as we continue, I just want to jump in really quick on like a personal thing. What gets you out of bed?
Oh, well, from a business perspective, it used to be fear. Fear of failure. As 16 years of business has gone by, I think the thing that gets me out of bed now is, it's not fear per se, but there is a responsibility to a greater group of people, of course. So 140 employees and a bigger group of customers that really look to us for what we provide. And that's exciting to me. That definitely gets me out of bed. I'm a fairly optimistic person. So, as I've gotten older and the business has matured a little bit, I think I've become a little bit more comfortable in my own skin and where we live and the kinds of successes that we've had. And, I'm as somebody who's really been driven by work and living in New York City and go all the time. I think getting out of bed for me is really about a relationship and my family and the bigger extended family of our business organization and what that looks like and what they mean to us and all of this community that we've developed around us. Like it's part of who we are now, and then that's a very exciting place to be.
Yeah, that's great. So, to continue the personal, how are you managing living day to day during this very unusual time in our lives?
Well, like I said, and I keep starting with the caveat that I feel very fortunate with my own personal circumstances. We have a home in Hudson, New York, which is about 2 hours north of New York City. Mm-hmm. And we have 9 acres of land that we had purchased several years ago. And we've become avid gardeners before any of this had happened. It's been an outlet from the stress of the city and just the day-to-day aspects of running a business. And so coming up here on weekends or extended stays and holidays when we can't really afford the time to go to Europe or Asia or wherever it is that's not business related, we come up here. And so we've been up here now. I'm not sure if I had COVID. I had 2 flus of some sort, one in early February and one in very late February when I returned from a business trip to London. And so on the onset of that, I came up to Hudson, New York, to my home to recover for about 2 weeks. So I've been here for the whole month of March and all of April consistently. Yeah. So I have not been back to New York City once. And in some ways, I feel really lucky about that because when I hear about everything that's happening around there, I have space around me and I'm able to walk around on 9 acres of land that, allows me fresh air and sunshine when we have it. And it's spring here. So things are blooming and it's getting green. And, so there's a lot of real natural beauty around me every single day, which in and of itself is inspirational. Yeah. And certainly helps to develop a routine for me and Andrew personally. So Andrew, after my illness was over, came up here as well. So he's been up here a couple weeks less than me, but consistently. And we get up, we make coffee, we take our little pug, our little dog outside for a walk around the yard. We read the newspaper. On the weekdays, we have scheduled appointments with our staff. We fit in some short workout routines here at home in between all of that, usually between walking the dog and starting our day with the office if there are necessary things to talk about. And then if the weather holds, we're outside. We're gardening, we're clearing fields. We've taken down some trees this year, things we would never have done on our own because we wouldn't have had the time. But it's been great. We feel productive between the office and what we're doing here in the greater landscape. It feels awesome. So, there's some really good things that I have to talk about that I feel are very fortunate when I know there are many less fortunate people around us. It's been incredible in that respect. And so that's sort of my routine.
That's incredible. And as we get to the end, I have a few more personal questions, but for our listeners, I want to dive back in because I think there's a lot of people that, want to learn from you. So, what sort of conversations are you having with your investor regarding the business? Because I know you guys have, just took on some money recently, and I wonder how's that impacting your business with your investor? Because, Melanie and I, we are also talking to investors. So I'm just curious about that.
We're 5 years into the relationship with our investor, and the business is pretty solid. And from a cash flow perspective, has enough cash on hand for the basic operational aspects of the business right now to sustain us through the next 2 months.
Okay.
We've applied for some loans. Our investor has other investments, so we're not the single only investment that comes from the fund. There hasn't been any expectation that we can't continue to operate independently as we always have, and we're continuing to look to do that. So for the time being, while there's support from an operational perspective from our investors and from their fund, which is based in London, it's actually a US fund, but the office is based in London. We're operating pretty independently at this point, and there's no reason why we can't. So it's all very positive. It's open level of communication. Sadly, because we are part of a bigger, what would be considered from a governmental or a legal accounting perspective, a bigger organization, we don't qualify for a small business loan, which is unfortunate, even though we would under other circumstances. So we've had to go to a larger commercial bank for a line of credit, which is fine. It looks like it's going to come through. It's just a matter of timing. So from a cash flow perspective, we're okay. If this continued for the next 3 or 4 months, ask me then. I don't know where things would stand, but it looks like we're going to squeak by. And depending on how the country reopens and where we land, we will bring our staff back, and we're going to have to start using credit to pay off bills that have been delayed for some reason, or that we've been paying slowly right now. And looks like we'll be okay.
That's great. That's great. So, it seems like you've had to shift your strategy around growth and on your business, with what's happening today. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's just the reality of where things stand. And, as an entrepreneur and as a business owner, nothing ever goes to plan. So you're constantly replanning and reevaluating and revising your strategy. And I think if you're going to be in business for yourself, that's just a normal way of life. This has been, a much bigger re-strategy than anyone has ever expected or planned. That's hard. And when people's livelihood is at stake, that makes it that much more challenging. But certainly, I think, as I said, there's lots of optimism within the business, and we're looking to that as the way forward, and starting to think about what the business is going to look like on the other side.
Yeah. That brings me up to my next question. What have you been hearing about the other side? What has your crystal ball been saying, Matthew?
Well, like everybody else, I read the newspapers, and I stay informed with our industry publications as well. And, I believe very similarly to a lot of the things that I've been reading, that business is going to start to shift and to refocus and to stay consistent with how it is today. People's habits are not going to change back to what they were so quickly. And I think as we're all embracing a much more digital world, we will continue to do so. Really focusing energy and resources on our digital channels will probably be the best way forward for all of us. We're not overstored in terms of what Malin+Goetz looks like today. So thankfully and luckily for us, I think our 15 freestanding stores are positioned in the right locations, local community-oriented locations, which can feel like they continue to be part of a community. And what wholesale will look like will really be dependent on the retailers out there. So how we manage through that, being nimble, shifting gears, moving towards digital, I think these are all the challenges. I mean, Barney's had been one of our national retailers for the past 16 years until recently. And now I'm reading about Neiman Marcus
I know.
every single day. And that's a huge shift. Like, what does the landscape of wholesale look like when this is all done? And honestly, it's probably moving to digital.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, you said something very key, as far as you positioned your stores in really cool places before they were even cool. I remember one time, Melanie and I, we went down to your store down in downtown LA, and now downtown LA is becoming like this hot spot, and your store was there before all this came. Like, what was your inspiration and what was your know-how to know what stores to put? Like, you have one in London on, what is it, Regent Street? Not Regent Street, but
we have a couple. We have one on Monmouth Street in Covent Garden. Yeah.
Covent Garden, yeah.
And then we have another one on Upper Street in Islington. In Islington, very similar to our store on the Upper West Side in Manhattan, or our store in Chelsea, the original store in Chelsea, and all of our stores for that matter, Larchmont Boulevard in Los Angeles as well.
Correct.
These were always meant to be neighborhoods that we wanted to live in. So, when we first opened up the Chelsea store, the original idea was that we could control our brand and our image from our own location. And we wanted to be able to do that as a new business. We also wanted to create this concept of what Apothecary had always been from a modern perspective. And that is this local neighborhood destination for how you would take care of yourself. And so we lived in Chelsea, and there was a storefront in the building for which we lived. And it was what we could afford at the time. And we just thought, like many pharmacists and chemists before us, we would open up a shop in our neighborhood and serve our local community. And so that's what we did. So we were kind of the shopkeepers who lived above the shop, and it resonated. It was affordable. It was a neighborhood we knew and a customer base that we knew really well. So all these things sort of fed really easily into the business and the kind of business model that we were looking to create. And when we started looking for our second store location, which we couldn't afford to do for the first 5 years of the business, we ended up on the Upper West Side because Andrew Goetz had grown up on the Upper West Side. And again, it was a neighborhood for which we would live or had lived, and a neighborhood that we knew well. And so when we looked to the third store, which was Larchmont Boulevard in Los Angeles, we thought our biggest location outside of New York is Los Angeles. That's where our customer is. And the one neighborhood that we really could live in or wanted to live in was the one that felt the most New York. It was where there was a main street, where you could shop on shops, where you weren't driving your car, where there was this beautiful affluent neighborhood around it of people who embraced what we were doing. It was the place we'd want to live. And that's really sort of been the mantra in terms of opening stores.
I love Larchmont. I just discovered it on my last time in Los Angeles. It's a beautiful little neck of the woods.
Who wouldn't love it, right?
I know. I'm like, forget about Beverly Hills. Let's move to Larchmont.
I think if you go back and you read the history, Larchmont was the Beverly Hills before there was a Beverly Hills.
Yeah, that's what Melanie told me. So I discovered that it's a beautiful, impressive place.
Yeah, no, it's pretty great. So, and in the neighborhood is so when we opened that store, what's quite interesting about it is we opened that store and we ended up moving to Los Angeles for like 3 months. I had never lived in LA, and we rented a house and thought, well, we'll get the vibe and we'll get the feel of the neighborhood by being there and working in the store every single day. And we did. And I would say that more than 50% of the customer base that came into the store while we were there were either from New York or had lived in New York at some point. Yeah. So there is this gravitational pull of people who have the sensibility of sort of that urban lifestyle that gravitate towards that particular neighborhood in Los Angeles because it feels very community.
Correct. I think there's going to be a mass exodus out of New York once this is over.
Yeah, I hope not, because I love New York so much and I intend to stay there. But there is a different mindset. And, we saw this after 9/11. People talked about the mass exodus out of New York City. And there were people who left. But I hope that it all settles back down and people are able to re-embrace what's so great about New York in the first place. However, time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell. So how much upside is there for the beauty business, both right now and post-COVID-19?
Well, I think for right now, what I'm reading and what I'm seeing is that there's huge digital upside. So most brands, well, I can't speak to all brands. I think that the smaller brands, the luxury-oriented brands, and maybe mass to some degree, although I don't keep up on it to the same level, seem to be benefiting from a digital upside at this point. I think post-COVID-19, there is this way forward for not just digital, but real community-oriented development and localization of business. And I find that really exciting. Andrew and I have always found that very exciting. It's how the stores that we've developed on our own were invented or positioned in the first place. So I think there's tremendous upside for that. What I guess is left to be seen is how the global economy recovers globally, and what that looks like specifically as people shelter in place and they want to support their local restaurant before it goes out of business when they are allowed to be able to do that again. And I don't know. I mean, how likely are we to be traveling to the extent that we were in the past, or how quickly does that ramp up? And I don't have those answers. I think it's going to take time, but I think that there's upside. It's going to look a little different.
Yeah, I think, once we get out of this, people are going to definitely be interested in spending their money. I'm sure you read in the Wall Street Journal about Hermes. They $2.7 million in day one. I'm like, my goodness, that's crazy.
Pent up energy.
Yeah, I know, right?
I think that will happen. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's definitely upside from a pure business perspective.
Yeah.
People want to have some sense of normalcy. They want to get back to some sense of what their life was before this. So there will be some positive sides to that. And certainly the beauty industry and the grooming industry for that matter, they present a product that is accessible and or aspirational from an accessible perspective, that makes that easier for what we do.
No, so speaking of that, how do you see brick and mortar business changing based on social distancing and all that we're dealing with right now?
Yeah, we're talking about that internally. So we have a director of retail, and then sort of like some global directors as well that have been weighing in on this for all of our stores. And very similarly to how we're even managing our own lives here in Hudson, New York, we're going on, if we're going to order food, grocery shopping, we go online and we either are looking, we haven't had delivery, but we're basically ordering online and having it ready for pickup so that we go and we pick it up and it's waiting for us. And I think our stores, at least if I can speak about Malin+Goetz, is we'll probably start with some form of that idea where we will limit the number of people coming into the shops, maybe one at a time. The shops are small. Our footprint is 500 square feet in general. So, having 3 people in the store at a time kind of fills it up, but maybe just having one person there at a time shopping with us, we would probably encourage some sort of pickup or interaction digitally. We'll probably end up wearing masks and gloves while we're working in the stores, social distance while we're there. I mean, all these kinds of things that we're starting to hear about, or we're even employing ourselves just in our own day-to-day personal lives, will be what brick and mortar, at least in my opinion, what our brick and mortar is going to look like.
I was thinking the other day, when it comes to men and skincare, we're going to have to start wearing masks. So, our skin is going to be a different effect. So, what are you guys doing about that as far as selling? Because people aren't going to be paying attention to their skin as much. They're going to be more want to protect themselves. So what do you think about that?
Well, I look, masks are the way forward at this point. I think that they're just going to be part of the new normal, and we all got to get used to it. But it doesn't mean that we're not going to want to wash our face and moisturize it every single day, or shave for that matter. It's so easy when you're at home to not be in a routine and not wash your face or not shave. I mean, one of the other reasons why our brand sort of exists is that I also suffer from a lot of skin issues, rosacea, eczema, seborrhea. I have fragrance allergies. And so my skin gets irritated very easily. And, and my mantra for 16 years has been, if you're going to do anything, wash your face and moisturize it every day, twice a day with something gentle and effective. That's it. I'm having a challenge following my own advice at home all of a sudden. And, when you start to do that, when you start to lapse, your skin gets irritated. If I'm out in the sun too long without sunscreen on, I get burned really easily. I have dryness and eczema around my hairlines, and that becomes irritated really fast. So all these things could become exacerbated with a mask. At the same time, I can't stop thinking about them because I still want to look good. And by the way, I keep and I haven't prescribed to any of it yet, except I'm not that astute at doing Zooms and video conferencing. But I keep reading about all the influencers who are really good at it. And they're like, well, you shouldn't have your computer down below looking up at you because it makes you look bad. So for the first time today, I actually have my computer up higher and light. I think I'm well lit, or maybe better well lit than before, just so that I can look better. And we all want to look good and present our best selves. So I don't think that's going to go away, but I mean, we'll be wearing masks. People will be wearing masks when they come into our stores, and we'll be working around it, just like we work around any issues people have one of the best things after 16 years, when Andrew and I started this business, and he had never worked in retail before, we opened up our shop in Chelsea. And after a few weeks, he turns to me and says, I've always heard the phrase retail therapy. I just didn't know I was going to be the therapist. And and it's kind of true. Like, people come in, they're looking for advice, so we're there to do it. And I don't think that will change.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's been what, four weeks I've been in the house, and today was the first day I shaved. I shaved for you, buddy. Cause I mean, I literally, my beard was out here, and I have like a little George Jefferson. So my hair was like this. It was insane. So I literally cleaned up for you. And, it felt so fucking dope to just kind of like feel good, right? Because I've literally, we're both in the skincare business, and, I let myself go. I was like, I don't care. And I was like, who gives a shit? I'm not seeing anyone, right? And so today I felt so powerful. I'm like, I'm back. Like, Troy looks good. Like my dark chocolate is glistening.
You do look good. So I'm the exact opposite of what you just described. So I normally have my hair cut from a variety of people that we work with in salons and barbershops, in the city or wherever I'm traveling. And I haven't had my hair cut in over 2 months now. And except for the one haircut I tried to give myself, which Andrew had to correct because it looked so bad. So at this point, I have a lot of hair, so I've weighed it down with like leave-in hair conditioner for this video conference so that it didn't look crazy and I didn't have to wear a hat today. I thought about it. I put my computer up, I have my lights, I have it well lit around me, and I like fixed my hair so that I didn't look ridiculous today. These are things we think about, and we should be thinking about them. Like, we do want to put our best foot forward. At the same time, what you've just said, what I keep hearing is what people what they want to know is there's this authenticity to who we are. And, we're at home, and we work in the grooming and the beauty industries, but yet, we have days just like anybody else where it's not pretty,
No, it's not. And I'm going to show you a picture. I was not pretty. Let me show you. I was not pretty, buddy. I was not pretty.
All right. It was looking a little rough. Yeah.
Yo, Matthew, it was looking very rough. And I was like, you know what? I always remember my business partner, Melanie, she's always like, you are our brand, so you have to look a certain way, right? And so that was like, for the Zoom, it just came to me. I was like, yeah, I got to take care of this.
Yeah, so we have in addition, well, part of that 8 group of marketers that I mentioned earlier, one of them happens to be a social media marketing assistant. This young woman named Lindsay, who's terrific, by the way. And she's been trying to encourage Andrew and myself to do very raw videos from home. And, we're happy to promote the business and be involved in it. I just, I wanted to be very careful about being solicitous at the same time. I'm just looking ridiculous. And she said, you know what, look, just go on, be real, do your thing, it won't matter. And so, I've done a couple of like at-home mask videos where I'm trying to talk about how to use our product and how to make yourself feel better and just at-home wellness sort of, well-being concepts that are out there and people are asking for. And honestly, I won't watch them because they're that raw and they're that rough looking. But at the same time, it is what people, it's how everyone is right now. So I think it feels very authentic just to be that and to just show like, this is what it is and this is how we're getting by. And, that's what it is.
Yeah, but, I think, if we dive deeper into that, you still are in your home with your partner and you still want to feel good around your partner, right? And I think, we can't discredit that, right? Because how we come out of this is your partner's going to look at you like, wow, like you actually look like that, right? And so, it's like, that's a whole nother conversation. I was reading an article that one of my friends, Lyndon, sent me, and they were saying that relationships and divorces are going to be at a high after this is over, right? Because we've all seen each other at the most vulnerable points, right? Women aren't getting their hair done, their Botox is looking crazy, their hair got gray, and men vice versa, right? So, after today, I feel good about myself. I actually feel great. Like I could just climb Mount Everest right now because I actually feel good. I wasn't feeling good about myself. Like mentally, I was working on my emotional intelligence, having conversations with my friend Yossi. Like I've been working on those types of things and my empathy and all the things that I need to work on. But physically and my appearance, I didn't feel good.
Yeah.
And so today made me back to myself, like shaving. I'm like, wow, I just feel myself again.
Yeah, no, and I same. Last night I decided, so I'd been out in the garden yesterday when it wasn't raining here because it had rained a little bit. And when I came in last night, I took a shower and I shaved, and I hadn't shaved in like 3 days. And, and I put some stuff in my hair, and my hair looks better the second day. So, I was prepared for today, and I feel good about it. Like I actually felt like, okay, I'm presentable enough that somebody can see me, and it made me feel good. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah. And so, as we get ready to close soon, I have this one question that I love to ask. What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Oh, wow. If I can offer a little caveat, when I was 18 years old, I was pretty naive to the world. And if I could tell just in a good way, I think I came from overprotective parents from Michigan, very Midwestern, very, heartland. And if I could tell my 18-year-old self to somehow retain that, and to just think about sort of the goodness in everything, which I think I did when I was 18. And, when you come to New York, you're smacked in the face with like everything.
Yeah.
And it hardens you pretty fast if you're gonna make it there. And if I could tell my 18-year-old self just to keep its innocence, and to just think about the good in people, and really being quarantined at home has made me think about that a lot. And I was talking to my aunt in Michigan just this morning about the exact same thing. Bringing people together right now, like that's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, that's what this is all about. You know, groupthink is something that I literally just thought about in the shower, right? And I'm like, you know, why not connect people and have these conversations, right? And just spread the messaging. And, you know, I've gotten a lot of responses from people like, wow, this is a really cool idea. You know, my designer, Chris, who works with us, he's like, wow, we can really expand this, right? And, you know, I would like us to continue to build this community because this is what we need right now. We all need to learn. We all need to be inspired. You know, we're all at home, and inspiration is key to our, you
Yeah.
know, collective.
Yeah, and there's just been such division in our country, and this
Yeah.
is a moment to stop and reflect and just remind ourselves that, you know, there's a lot of goodness out there amongst all of us, and we just need to find it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, Matthew, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks,
And
Troy.
gang, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to get you guys to ask questions for Matthew. You know, we just kind of had a great conversation. So I apologize to all the attendees who may have left and who are still here. So thank you very much. But Matthew, this has been an honor. Let's
Thank
continue
you.
to pave the way for men in skincare. And thank you for being an inspiration to all of us in the skincare space.
And thank you for organizing, and thank you for looking your best today.
Thank you, brother. Take care of yourself.
All right, you too.
All right.